The Banking Scene Director's Cut goes behind the scenes, sharing stories and insights to help you build the bank of tomorrow.
Welcome to this episode of the Banking Scene Director's Cut with our special guest, Jorij Abraham, the Managing Director of GASA, the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. Welcome to the show, Jorij.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew. I look forward to our discussion.
Well, it's sparked by the recent webinar where you were our guest and you did a presentation, and it had some truly eye-watering numbers and statistics that were in there, and we had a great Q&A session afterwards, but then we also had some more questions that we couldn't get through in the Q&A, hence this follow-up. I must admit, Rick and I were talking about it afterwards, and although we were aware of scam factories, man, those photos that you put up of places like KK Park and things like that, they were mind-blowing. But of relevance to the Benelux region, we had asked our audience what the most common scam types that they are currently detecting is, and they came back with the usual suspects, should we say, investment scams, APP, phishing, that kind of a thing. But in your opinion, are there any particular fraud typologies that are growing fastest in the Benelux region right now that banks are still systematically underestimating the impact?
As you know, Andrew, we do a survey amongst about 50,000 consumers every year. We include, of course, the Netherlands and Belgium. Based on that data, online shopping scams are still the number one scam, where you order a product or service and you don't receive it, or you receive a fake or something completely not related to what you ordered. But investment scams are continue to become a bigger problem, and banks are already aware of it. But the big challenge is that this is something, there are huge amounts involved, and as a bank, it's not easy to identify it, because if a customer slowly starts to transfer first maybe 50, then 100, then 500, then 1,500, then 10,000, then 25,000 to a bank account, there is already a relationship, and that's how the scammers work. They take their time. We have seen investment scams which are already going on for 4 or 5 years, and scammers really know how to slowly lure and keep people investing. So we see the numbers increasing, and I think the big challenge for banks is that these people really believe they're investing in something great, and actually that the scammers are even able to convince them that the bank is the evil guy. They don't want you to make money. So if your bank contacts you, they're going to ask you these questions, and this is what you have to answer, because they don't want you to make money. They want you to keep the money in their bank account.
Oh, that's a bit
They're very
clever
good.
on their side. Have you noticed, mentioning investment scams, how much of that is now crypto investment scams? Are people caught up in the crypto hype, and you see a lot of that going to crypto accounts, and then there's nothing that the banks can do about it?
Yeah, we actually see, based on the survey we're now going this year, we're going to do the third year. I'm very curious to see. I always expected that crypto is one of the most used payment methods, but it's not. I mean, it's bank transfer, and in other countries where credit cards are bigger, it's credit card or other local payment methods. Those are by far the most common used methods. But when we then see, once the scammer has collected the money in his bank account from several victims, then it moves to crypto, and they're shredding the cryptos into smaller pieces, hiding their trail. So yes, we still see a lot of crypto investment scams where people are convinced to put their money directly into an exchange and then to a scam. but depending on the country, this is maybe 15% of the transactions.
Oh,
Um,
that's a lot lower than I was expecting.
yes, I had also expected it to be higher, but what we hear from law enforcement is that crypto is heavily used in the second phase. Okay, once they got the money in a money mule bank account, then they transfer it and start to make following the money trail more and more difficult.
Now, interestingly, you had brought up that the banks are often seen as the bad guys because they're trying to stop people making money, as it were. And despite years of fraud awareness campaigns, and as you say, banks actively contacting their customers and going, "Are you sure this is not a scam?" Do we have any concrete evidence that fraud awareness campaigns actually change the behavior of the consumer at the moment that they're emotionally manipulated and under time pressure? Because you had said those were some of the triggers that the scammers use, is emotional manipulation and time pressure. Have the fraud awareness campaigns have any impact when you say that the banks can't even get through to the consumers, even when it's more calm and rational, maybe?
Actually, at our last summit in Washington, D.C., we had Professor Mark Button presenting on this topic. He did a lot of research into the effectiveness of awareness campaigns. Moral of the story is they're not super effective. Also moral of the story is most awareness campaigns don't measure if they're effective. So actually, no conclusion can be made at all. But for those who are, only a few have some moderate effect. What we see is it might work. Also the way we're doing awareness campaigns, often with very nice, very expensive TV commercials. People remember them like a commercial, meaning after 2 weeks it's gone. And the big problem with awareness campaigns in general, and for the record, I believe they will remain necessary, is they speak to our logic. If it's too good to be true, don't do it. If you're being pressurized, don't do it. Those are all then things which we store in our left brain. Okay, if this happens, then that. Well, the scammer is very good at using our emotional side, our right brain side, to push forward and to be very convincing. Um, Another challenge with awareness campaigns is scammers are just getting too good. I mean, um, I'm also regularly approached by a scammer where I really have to dive into it. Okay, is this now just a very commercial offering, or is my colleague now sending? Actually, this morning I got a weird message from a colleague. I first thought, oh my God, her account is hacked. But then she explained to me, oh no, this is something I want to discuss this afternoon about scam awareness. So I mean, yes, awareness campaigns remain necessary. Are they effective? No. What we really believe is we have to continuously educate consumers. We have to, just like with the cybersecurity awareness companies, we have to every week confront them with a possible scam to raise awareness on a continuous basis instead of doing once off.
Is that something that you had mentioned, the sort of Duolingo type app, which was like that? Is that something that will help, like people who want to become fraud savvy, that can educate themselves on that kind of platform?
Yes, so we hope to launch our continuous scam education tool at the UN Fraud Summit in March. And the idea is really to challenge consumers every week with a scam. Um, and we're going to measure it. And my hope, of course, is that it does really result in people getting less scammed. We will know in 1 year time.
Is this is this going to be globally available? Global Anti-Scam Alliance, because I really want to sign up for this. I'm very curious. Like a lot of consumers, tech-aware consumers, I think I'm scam aware, but I'm always reading stuff about the latest scams to try and educate myself. Will this be globally available?
Yeah, yes, and just as you said, Andrew, I mean, humankind in general believes we're very good. We're very confident we can recognize scams. 73% globally thinks they can recognize a scam. 10% is sure they can recognize any scam. And for us, the challenge will be to, I mean, it will be globally available. The challenge will be, can we get the people to start using the platform who are so confident about themselves? Because very honestly, we need to break down their confidence. We see there's a very strong relationship between the level of confidence people have in their ability to recognize scams and being scammed. So we need to break it down a little bit.
And you had noted that, particularly in the Netherlands, there's a sort of mindset about reporting won't help. So there's potentially an underreporting of the level of scams. What action do you think the Netherlands could take, or globally we could take, to change that perception of reporting won't help the fastest?
You're right, and I'm not 100% sure about the figures, but I think the Dutch police themselves believe that only between 7 and 18% of all the scams in the Netherlands are actually reported to the Dutch police. And for the record, I believe the Dutch police is doing a great job. They're also recognized internationally for their competences, but they are very open with the fact that they cannot handle the volume of scams. And um, thankfully, in the Netherlands, the Dutch police is allowed to say, "Sorry, you reported a $50 online shopping scam to us. We know the scammer is based in Asia. We cannot help you." And that's good because you give clarity to the reporter that uh, the money is lost, it's gone. It allows the Dutch police to focus on the investment scam of 50,000, which is good. But we do need to do more because we need also those small scam reports because we know that scammers are copying that also 1,000 times, getting to 50,000. So we need to aggregate the data more. We need to then catch the scammer or at least communicate back to the consumer. You reported this website to us. We sent the domain to the hosting company. It was taken down. We're not catching the scammer. He's just setting up the next website, but at least we give some feedback, and that's currently lacking, and is something we're working on with the Global Signal Exchange to make it easier for law enforcement to report dubious phone numbers, dubious email addresses, websites in an efficient manner, allowing telecom operators, internet service providers to take actions.
I was actually mentioning to Rick that here in the UK, we have this fantastic service whereby my iPhone's call screening capability actually screens any calls that onto my contact list, and it comes up with a flag. When the person's phoning me, my phone actually doesn't ring. My screen just flashes up and it says suspected spam. And then the call is automatically diverted to not to voicemail, but my phone asks the caller their reason for calling and their name. And 99% of the time, the call is just hung up. So I will see my phone and it might have 5 notifications that scammers try to get hold of me, or spammers, more than scammers, maybe even. And I would love, yeah, we've got spam mailboxes and filters on our emails, but I would love there to be a more proactive warning from my mail service provider, from Google, saying suspected scam, big bold banner at the top maybe. But one of the other things is that, we know and we had discussed that many scam victims don't report scam incidents because they blame themselves and they think, I was stupid, and they're embarrassed, so they don't report it. Do you think there's a way that banks could redesign the fraud journeys to remove that stigma of scammers and encourage earlier or more disclosure from people from scamming?
Let me also get back briefly to your previous comment and then go into your question. Uh, I think, I mean, Google and also other platforms are already blocking a massive amount of messages. We don't even notice. The big challenge, and then I go to your question, is where does spam, bad service stop, and when does it become a scam? I used to own scamadvisor.com, and we gave websites a bad rating. And then I had endless discussions with the scammer. Who am I to determine if this is a good investment, yes or no? Yes, you can have 100% return on investment in 10 days. I can prove it to you. Um, and that makes the life of all the stakeholders, banks, social media, tough because I mean, phishing is easy. You are not ING Bank, you're not Rabobank, or so that's black and white. With scams, when does it become a scam? And yes, I think banks can do more, and we have seen. I mean, the banks are already in the Benelux are implementing a lot of measures. Are you sure you want to pay this amount to this foreign bank account? Where I hope to see a lot more is in the verification of PE. Now I can already see if I transfer money to you, Andrew, it's going to Andrew Foster, or it's going to a completely different name. Okay, then that's not Andrew. But we can do so much more. Sorry, Andrew, please.
No, although during our webinar there we had an interesting anecdote from one of our guests that to me was completely surprising, that he said verification of payee they've seen can potentially enable scammers because the scammers send fake invoices and say acting on behalf of a legitimate organization, and then they use a mule account, which actually is correctly verified because the person believes they're paying one party because the invoice says acting on behalf of. And the person who shared that with us had said that this acting on behalf of agency for collections is actually quite common across Belgium. And that was a big surprise to me, that we could have unintended consequences of verification of payee actually legitimizing some of these mule accounts. That's even more scary to me.
I agree. But I think very honestly, acting on, we should simply not do that. I mean, and it's also not necessary. I mean, if you're collecting money for an energy company or for a telecom operator, it should go to the bank account of that organization. And you, as an organization chasing people to pay, should just have access to then the bank account of the telecom operator or energy company. I do not see the need why there should be acting off at all. And I do, for the record, Andrew, I mean, it's only one solution. We know we need 1,000 pinpricks to solve this problem. Verification of PE is a pinprick, but we can expand it. If we could add when this bank account was set up, how long ago, or is it a business account or a personal account? Because I mean, all that information helps the consumer to say, hey, why am I sending money to a bank account who is 2 months old? Well, I thought this company already existed 7 years. Hey, this is a personal account. It should be supposed to be a business. Um, it, and we know that consumers. I mean, I'm a consumer myself. I don't pay attention. I go for it. But every small small hobble will make life a little bit more difficult for scammers.
So jumping forward a bit, just when we're talking about success in fraud prevention, we've been measuring that, and it's continually measured by blocked transactions or loss avoidance or things like that. Should we also be measuring or attempting to measure behavioral outcomes like the customer confidence in averting a scam, or loyalty, trust preservation? If you were advising a bank What sort of a scam scorecard success metrics would you be able to advise them on?
I think transactions blocked and what the KPIs you just named, yes, they're relevant. But actually, there's also indeed proof that banks who protect their clients more from scams and also really give good victim support have a way higher retention rate than those who do not, because the people really feel scammed by the bank, while they're actually the bank is not scamming them, it's the scammer, but they blame the bank. And we see that banks who are taking more action are more understanding, keep a lot more customers. Trust is a good one. It's one of the survey questions we also ask in our survey. And we see that countries who have the most problems with scammers, the general trust in the internet economy is decreasing. So it's for all our benefits to fight scams, to make sure that our economies also grow.
A lot of the fraud prevention and the experts that I've been interviewing for our fraud white paper talk about technology, implementing new technology, AI, that kind of thing to help fight fraud. What is the biggest misconception that banks still have when they assume that technology alone will materially solve fraud without them fundamentally addressing that human behavioral aspect?
I think, I see a lot of AI versus AI. We have many cybersecurity companies, and I think they're developing great solutions to better recognize fraudulent transactions or deep fakes or voice messages which are generated by AI. Um, but I think we're not going to win the battle that way. It will continuously we see the scammers upgrading, using more. And one of my biggest concern is I recently spoke to a company who is really focusing on using AI for fake voices. And they say we might be able for the next year, maybe 2 years, to recognize fake voices. But then it's just becoming too real, too good. And you can no longer use AI. Using AI for phishing emails to recognize them, I mean, if the mail is written perfectly, then yeah, it becomes, it's only the style which allows you, and you can now also change the style. So I think in the end, yes, we need technology, but we need to take care of the emotional or the thinking of the consumer. But we really need to work more together to really get to the scam networks and take the scammers down. I think our biggest challenge at the moment is fighting just scammers by using technology to keep them at bay is not working. I mean, it's working, but it's not solving the problem. Catching the scammers and making sure that it's not a free crime, that is something we really need to work together on, because that will at least make it more clear for scammer it's no longer a risk-free business.
So I'm glad that you said we need to work together on. So, last question to be able to wrap this up. What kind of a cross industry data sharing do you think would have the highest impact on scam prevention that's still blocked in some reason by regulation today? And follow on to that, if banks could get two things from social media platforms and telcos tomorrow, what would you ask to be able to put into that ecosystem of data sharing to help us on fraud prevention?
It's a good question. It's also a broad. There's a lot in there. I think, with banks, we need to start at the beginning. Sharing what I actually just discussed about verification of payee. If we can add more data to that process, I think we can already do a lot. If a bank who's sending money to another bank hears back, hey, we created the account yesterday, please send us the money, then that bank can already say towards his customer, this might not be good, even for $50. So I think already already there, what is already out there, we can do a lot more. What I would love to see between social media now is, several social media allow banks to flag pages, flag ads, etc. I think it should also be the other way around. And with credit cards, that already exists. That hey, a scammer is trying to buy advertising space on a platform, but the credit card is stolen. I think there we can also do a lot more. We need to actually prevent those ads being placed at all. And that can be done by is this a Uber is this a companies who is actually allowed to offer these financial products, for example, but also by the bank giving more information to the social media platform of the reliability of a bank account, for example. I think if we really start to work more together on sharing trust signals and sharing scam signals, as we do now via the global signal exchange, we really can make life a lot harder for the scammers than we currently do.
Forward to a world in which we don't have to worry about scams, but I do continue to worry when I see all of the AI stuff coming forward, deepfakes and things like that. Jorij, we have run out of time. I thank you so much. I look forward to hearing your presentation at Brussels at our flagship conference in May. And if anybody has got more questions, which I'm sure they will have as a result of this podcast, I encourage them to come along to Brussels, to our flagship event, and they can come in and ask you personally and get it straight from you there, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.